Okay, well, Trudeau is in India. That's where he is. And he gives Modi a dead fish handshake. And while Parliament's been off for 3 months, by the way. 3 months. It's a long time. Look at that handshake. Holy, let's see that again. And Modi looks a little bit like, oh, and he's like, well, I'll adjust my scarf because I'm embarrassed. You know, it was a pretty bad thing. So Trudeau, not giving any money to the military budget, but has 2 planes on his election campaign, is stuck in India. He's going to be getting out of there Tuesday. This is what he did in England after the Queen died. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our prime minister who has just... Look at, this is the respect for the Queen on the day before her funeral.
What the hell was he thinking? They shrugged and said, "Oh, it's just inflation."
Misrepresenting the inflation crisis?
Just inflation. Imagine. It's just inflation. Well, imagine. It's just inflation. We'll to have people's backs.
Everything we discussed is leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate.
而且我们也不是那样进行的。
And that's not all the way the conversation was
如
conducted.
果有诚心，咱们就以互相尊重的态度来进行很好的沟通。
If there is
否则这个结果就不好说了。
if there is sincerity on your part,
free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have. We will continue to look to work constructively together, but there will be things we will disagree on. And we will have
有些可以建设性，但是
创造条件，创造条件。
Let's create the conditions first.
好。
Tough time for Canadians, but we're not. No, we shouldn't be talking about elections. We're here to help Canadians. The last thing that Canadians need or want now is a federal election.
Attack Canadian natural resources when you are participating in a Communist Party of China Climate Forum and refuse to confront them on their practices, like the billion they are investing into coal-fired electricity.
Well, actually, the council was created in 1992, and when Pierre Poilievre was a cabinet minister, his colleague, the Minister of Environment, occupied this. The environment ministers under Stephen Harper occupied the same position I do now as environment minister. In fact, the last environment minister of the Harper government praised the council for the work that it's done to help China tackle its environmental problems. And in fact, on the work plan of the council over the next year, we will be working to tackle coal use in China. We will be working on carbon pricing. So everything you just said that is simply not true.
You mentioned extreme events like wildfires and hurricanes. Why has your carbon tax not stopped those things if that is the answer to these problems?
This question, which I've heard in the House of Commons by many Conservative Party members, including Pierre Poilievre, is yet another example of the fundamental disbelief that you have in climate science and in science full stop. We won't solve climate change overnight, and we certainly won't solve climate change with empty slogans. It's going to take years of hard work to tackle this environmental crisis, and the fact that you believe that somehow we can flick a switch on a wall and everything's going to be fine just shows how the total ignorance that you and many others have when it comes to the issue of climate change.
So Guibo, well, you can see he basically got ushered out because of the questions were going against him. So he crashed the Conservative convention, and it backfired. It seemed like, if you can see, look at these. He went to China, and that's what the questions were like. You're bashing on Canadians, but the Chinese tell you to be silent, and you are. It was just, and you know, we got to wonder, what was he really doing there? This trade mission while Trudeau was going to other places? Probably, you know, who knows?
The team will now compile the results of the vote.
Expect this elections interference to ramp up times 10.
I declare the motion carried.
Check this out. This is a recap. The vote, and the vote passed. MP Cooper here, and this clip at the Proc Committee is looking into foreign interference, and he finds that a little bit of discrepancies about what the bureaucrats and CSIS is saying, that we gave it over, and then what the Prime Minister said. So where was it blocked? Maybe it hit a deputy or something like that, this information, and then was stopped, and we don't know why. There seems to be a lot of questions, and I don't think he can get to the heart of it, but he definitely opens up a can of worms. Check this out.
Why did he mislead Canadians?
Madam Chair, I don't think that's an appropriate question.
Well, I think it is an appropriate question. I think Canadians have a right to know why it is the Prime Minister would make such a statement when it is turned out to be patently false. Did you tell the Prime Minister that?
Yes.
And you specifically told him it had not been raised to a higher level?
I told him that it had not been briefed to him, and I didn't know what had left CSIS.
Well, that's very different than what the Prime Minister said, because he didn't say that that he wasn't briefed. He didn't say that he didn't know where it went. He said he made a very specific declaration that it had not been raised. So he said more than that. So again, why did he not state what in fact happened? Why did he mislead Canadians?
Madam Chair, I don't think that's an appropriate question.
Well, I think it is an appropriate question. I think Canadians have a right to know why it is the Prime Minister would make such a statement when it is turned out to be patently false.
Madam Chair, I think the Prime Minister reflected the information he had at the time. He told us to keep working. He organized a meeting with Mr. Chong, and we briefed Mr. Chong.
Blame it all on You're of the opposition.
The Prime Minister
Investigate allegations. It is
on the Minister's law before he pulls the comments down offline. The Globe and Mail called the Minister's performance amateur hour on C10. Open Media has said the Prime Minister...
And suddenly, 24 hours later, you call MP Chong and you advise him that, contrary to what the Prime Minister had said only 12 hours or 24 hours earlier, but that wasn't so, that in fact the memo had gone to the PCO and had specifically gone to the then National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister. So what happened between when the Prime Minister made that very affirmative statement that it had not been raised to a higher level to your phone call with Mr. Chong, where you said, in fact, it was exactly the opposite of what the Prime Minister said?